Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. And my name is Rotimi Tai. Such a pleasure to be here. We're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to Africa, and the entire world. This is the Good Morning Education Show, and we're excited to be here. Please do tell us where you're joining us from. If you're streaming with us, please tell us your name and your location, and we'll be excited, to say hello to you and also to welcome you to the show this morning. On the Good Morning Education Show, we have conversations that spans around the world of business, but majorly about education and the world of education. We talk about things that evolve around education. We talk about things that actually speaks about development and navigating the realities in education. And on the show, we sometimes used to have who we call guest analysts who join us from time to time, and they spend time to share, and they spend time to learn with us as well. And today is not going to be an exception. I really want you to join us and sit back and experience an exciting episode today. We'll be talking about something quite interesting. I believe that as we journey along in today's session, you will engage, you will experience um, something. We always sit down and say this together, that when we're on the show, we learn together, we share together, and we grow together ultimately. And today is not going to be an exception. I'm just going to be going on a short break, and I'll be right back. And when I'm back, we'll get straight into the main conversation of the day. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show, everyone. Thank you, and don't touch that link. So welcome back, everyone. Like I said, this is the Good Morning Education Show, and my name is Rotimi Intayo, and I am your host for today. Our topic today is an interesting one. Yesterday on the show, we're talking about have a life, and if you were not able to catch the show yesterday, I would recommend that you spend some time, to check out the video on my YouTube channel. And while you're doing that, make sure you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and also share the video with others. But we're talking about a very interesting conversation as to, when we say have a life. To have a life is not something that you just, take for granted. It's not something that you dismiss. It's something that is quite um, definite. It's that kind of intentional. We talked about the dimensions, of life. Um, we talked about different things that could easily, cut across as things that you could easily, work on. And then we looked at the definite dimensions of our lives that we also must, be intentional about. And I believe that this is something that everyone will find quite useful, in their journey. And this is why we talked about it yesterday. We spent time to talk about the physical dimension, the mental dimension. We talked about the relational dimension, societal or communal dimension, financial dimension, the professional dimension, and the spiritual dimension to life. This is something that I believe that if you spend some time to look at it, you will definitely be able to glean and gain from this as well. All right, so let's head on to the conversation of the day, and I believe that you're ready to learn. Please, once again, if you're just joining us for the first time, please tell us your name, location, where you're streaming from, so that we could join you, and also, share with you as well. All right. We're talking today about should we teach forever? And it's an interesting one when you say things like this, different people have several things that comes to their mind. Should we really teach forever? Now we're talking about who are we talking about? Who should teach? Who should teach forever? And what's the concept of forever? And why the question? These are many more things that will be interesting for us, to talk about and witness. Should we teach forever? We need to recognize that professions that people get into or careers that people, get into are made for different purposes. You know, a lot of us step into different careers for different purposes. And when you think about it, career switch is not a strange term. Career change is not a strange term. Sometimes a lot of people are actually confused as to the longevity or the prescribed length of time they're meant to spend, you know, in a particular place. Sometimes people are not sure whether they should, spend all their life in a particular employment, you and sometimes some people have actually whispered and said that it's probably not a good sign of stability, or it doesn't speak of the person's image or character if the person is found hopping from one point to the other. And some school of thought also believe that you cannot totally spend all your professional life or your work life in one employment or in one domain. Life is so dynamic. You should be able to experience several platforms, several places for different reasons, sometimes for economic reasons, sometimes for just mere experiences, sometimes for network, sometimes for completion of exposure and expertise, sometimes for upskilling, sometimes for job satisfaction, sometimes based on aspiration, sometimes based on desire, sometimes based on convenience. So in this part of the world, sometimes you hear people say, "Oh, I'll rather opt from a very corporate setting to probably civil service," and the reason behind that is because they believe that probably um, one of the options provide work-life balance or an opportunity to multi-venture, to get into two businesses, an opportunity, to be able to, feel free, especially when you listen to help people who are actually, excuse me, who are actually, concerned about the home front, ability to raise kids at a very tender age. They would want an organization that, while working, can afford them the opportunity to close early, afford them the opportunity to get to meet up with family in good time, as opposed to sometimes, working in a very promising organization, but you're having a shortfall in your personal life, you're having a shortfall in the home front. So things are not necessarily adding up. You probably are earning well and doing well in the career, but you're not necessarily doing as much as you would love to in the area and dimensions of life that matter to you. So, one of the things that I would say as we spend time on this conversation today is the question: should we teach forever? Now, I want you to just pay attention and follow me closely on this conversation. I'm going to be dividing my direction and my attention to two different kinds of people. Now, the very first kind of people that should be listening to me and getting what I'm trying to say are the audience that I believe are directly engaged in the job, career, and profession of teaching. Now, the other audience or category of people listening to me are the people who probably are not in mainstream engagement or direct, employment or profession of teaching. We must realize to teach goes beyond a task that is required. So, talking about the one who right now currently sits as an educator, as a teacher, when the question comes from that person to you, to someone like me, or when the question comes as a personal reflection, should we teach forever? The very first answer I'm going to give is yes. So, listening to me today might be teachers, or listening much later and stumbling on the video might be teachers who are actually having the question: should we teach forever? Yes. Um, and why am I saying that? Because to teach, right, speaks to the depth and the heart of the definition of teaching itself. And when we look at it, who should teach? A teacher is the one who teaches. And if we understand that teaching in itself is the ability or the demonstration of capacity to facilitate knowledge, learning, and discovery, you know, um, it's the ability to facilitate that as an agent of change. So when we're able to think about that, should we stop enabling learning to happen? Should we have a point in our life that we would not enable discovery? Should we have a point in our lives that we will not enable, you know, understanding and growth? I don't think there should be any time in our lives that that should happen. And because of that, that's why I said we should have a yes to the answer: should we teach forever? Should we teach forever? Yes. And why am I saying yes? Because you would find the need to transition in the teaching career, in the teaching profession from time to time. So, should we transition? Yes. Should we teach forever? Yes. And the only thing that can help ensure and guarantee our teaching forever is our journey and our transitioning across the divide. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to me today, understand, especially speaking to those who are core educators, we ought to teach. We ought to teach. And we ought to teach forever. And please understand that it's not just talking about the hours before people in a classroom. We're talking about the hours even outside the classroom. We're talking about the hours, around the world. Teaching is such a dynamic reality that you can easily find yourself navigating that from time to time for people around the world. Um, it's not restrictive, neither is it restricted to a time belt. And when we begin to have a different orientation and begin to have a different perspective, it also helps us understand who we are, and what we ought to do. So I really want us to recognize that um, teachers actually are meant to be teachers for life. Because if we say that learning is continuous, if we say that we are meant to be lifelong learners, then there must be something that also is teaching so we can learn. So we should be lifelong teachers for lifelong learning to take place. It takes, you know, us to be lifelong teachers. Let me write that down. For those who might stumble on this, to become Apologies, I think we've been having some network challenges, but we're back. So, as we're saying, we're talking about ability to navigate and transition, and we need to open our eyes and spend more time asking questions to understand the length and breadth of the profession. It's important for you to know that there are teaching jobs that are not just based for classrooms or based within the classroom. We have organizations who are in need of what you call service or solution that involve teaching and transference of knowledge. So, in such a situation, this kind of topic speaks to the consciousness that we need to explore, the length and breadth that the profession actually affords us. You know, you can easily, get from one length to the other and able to navigate, get to that point where you understand that while overall concept of teaching, not just the task or activity of teaching, should be seen as forever, because you can't have lifelong learning without lifelong teaching. You should also be able to recognize that it's also important that if you're looking at the profession, you should never stay stuck on just one job in that concept, which is the job of just teaching in the classroom. There are different kinds of classroom that you could also experience and explore in the world today, currently in the corporate space and the workforce outlook. There's a lot of celebration of agility of individuals, not just agility of the workplace. A flexibility that can happen within the professional, that can make the professional understand that he can serve his talent, he can serve his expertise, he can serve his skill, not just to one, but to all, or not just to one, but to more. And that way it will take an individual who sits down to carefully understand how and where his skill and giftings will be appreciated across the divide. That's when that person as a teacher can understand that even though you want to teach forever, you might not be teaching in one spot forever, you might not be teaching in one employment forever, you might not be teaching in one format forever. So it's not just about changing jobs, it's not just about changing employer, it's not just about having a different work supervisor or different work remuneration, but it's you also understanding that you can explore and replicate your skill across and along several platforms within and outside the shores of where you teach. And this is what we need to begin to think about, that the teacher agility should actually be seen not just from a place of employment, but from a place of exploration, where you are able to share and spread your expertise simultaneously, repeatedly, progressively, to serve you and to serve the common good of everyone. And this is the challenge that we are really bringing to you on the Good Morning Education Show, that you as a teacher, you can teach forever. It is possible. You must never stand oppressed or frustrated, believing that you are at the crossroad or you've gotten to your wits' end and there's nothing else that you can do. That would not be totally accurate. And in some cases, some people have been so discouraged based on some of the things that they've seen, based on some things they've experienced, in their jobs, and they're wondering um how they can easily navigate, and in some cases, you'll be asking yourself, how long is length, or how long is long, you know, how long should I stay, you on the job, or the job is no longer making sense, you know. And I think that for people who are thinking about that, uh, you can actually think about it, that if you want to quit your job, um, you must actually be able to tick so many boxes. And some of the boxes might mean that you need to ask yourself, where did your motivation go and why did it go? You must audit your motivation for work, and you must try as much as possible to see if it's a situation of burnout. I said that yesterday as well. When you don't pay attention to certain dimensions of your body, I mean, of your life, or when you might pay attention to it, but you have not provided deliberately or appropriately for it, you can get to experience things like burnout. Burnout sabotages energy, sabotages drive, sabotages pursuit. Burnout is dangerous. You don't need it in your life. You know, you must ensure that if you're encountering burnout or you are directly going towards having a burnout, you set yourself apart to prevent that from happening to you. You and this is really what it is. And like I said, the Good Mind Education Show, we're here Mondays to Fridays, just having bare conversations, short conversations, and just navigating the conversations together and helping people understand how it is truly that they can get the best and be the best and do the best that they've been raised up, skilled up for, you know, not just once but continuously. So should we teach forever? Absolutely yes. But we need to also realize that our progress, you know, is something that we must plan carefully. Our progress must have some measure of responsiveness in being strategic into the outcomes that we really look forward to have. You I really would want to encourage people out there to understand that it's not enough to just desire shift or change. We must be positioned, even with our plan for change, we must be positioned to do more, to have more, to be better with change in perspective. There's a lot that we can say, but I would not want to take too much of the time this morning on the show. Um, Tomorrow we'll be talking about something quite interesting. And please feel free, send in your questions. And if you want to advertise your program, please feel free, send in your advert. Let's look at how we can get you the views and the visibility that you're looking for. That's what it truly means. And this is why we're on the Good Money Education Show, to ensure that you and I get to learn consistently all the time. You and I get to share consistently all the time, and you and I continuously also begin to grow. And you see, when you think about your profession, and you think about learning on your job or learning on the job, these are things that sometimes we encounter, you and a lot of people, and I think I should spend some time on it. A lot of people entertain fear when it comes to career transition, when it comes to transitioning in their jobs, or when it comes to actually settling in their mind what they should be doing. Because a lot of times it could be that you got into that job out of condition, out of happenstance, limited options, you know. But then it's very important for us to be able to understand that you must not do things in fear. Fear sometimes is an invitation to ignorance, because at the end of the day, you'll be too impulsive to actually know for a truth and for a fact if your actions are actually appropriate, you know. And I think that there are many things that you ought to do if you want to really look at the beginning or the journey or the adventure into transitioning your career. You must think about how to audit your CV or resume. What exactly is it that is on there? And then you begin to have an exit strategy. Build up savings for those who have not, and then of course, you know, make sure that all the things that you can do, yeah, you're doing them, but stay positive, activate and consolidate on your value. Remember it, document it, and then of course you'll be fine. Today, I'm afraid this is where we're going to stop this morning. Tomorrow we're going to continue, and we're going to have a great time on the show tomorrow. But ladies and gentlemen, always ensure that once it's 8 o'clock, you join us for the Good Morning Education Show. Mondays to Fridays, it's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time. On Saturdays, it's 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. West African time. But on Sundays now, it is 3 p.m. To 4 p.m. West African time. I hope you've learned something today. It's been a great pleasure hosting this show this morning. And I'm sure Before the weekend, we'll have some of our guests who have joined us. I will have some of our guest analysts who will be able to join us on the show and be able to take the conversation further, as we ought to have it. So until then, there's a saying we always have on the show, and I'd like you to say it with yourself, by yourself. Say it to yourself. It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. That's what we always say. So at the count of two, we're going to say it together. Are you ready? One, two, go. It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Make sure you have a great day and understand that stay consistent in all you do. Have a nice day. Bye for now. Bye.